everyone, my name is Sophie from Lachance. By realizing the importance of labor to dogs and cats, nowadays, pet parents pay much more attention to labor-supported supplements or relative functional pet food. Stopped by the high cost or single ingredient of current products in the market. Are you looking for a new product with different but effective ingredients with more reasonable price? Perfect! Then we are here to talk about DAMEL, the guard of pet liver health. DAMEL with its innovative ingredient bile acids could provide a big support for pet liver health. Bile acids are the main active component of bile. It has multiple biological activities and plays an important role in fat metabolism in animals. Bile acids could promote self-metabolism of waste and protect the liver and intestine health at the same time. It's portable and easy feed, 2 grams each piece, in white powder form. We just need to mix it into pet food, and done. Thanks to its good palatability, pets will finish it by themselves. For feast usage, DAMEL could effectively help pets recover appetite from hepatic lipidosis within 3 days and remove hepatic tear stains from the root. It also helps to remove jaundice caused by liver problems. For long-term use, without any side effects, DAMEL could brighten coat and keep pets in good body shape. We could provide care for senior pets by reducing blood lipids and blood sugar. DAMEL will be there for all pets' life. Now, it's time to give my fur baby his DAMEL. It's great talking to you. See you next time. My name is Sophie. Bye! Hello everyone, my name is Sophie from Lachance. By realizing the importance of labor to dogs and cats, nowadays, pet parents pay much more attention to labor-supported supplements or relative functional pet food. Stopped by the high cost or single ingredient of current products in the market. Are you looking for a new product with different but effective ingredients with more reasonable price? Perfect! Then we are here to talk about DAMEL, the guard of pet liver health. DAMEL with its innovative ingredient bile acids could provide a big support for pet liver health. Bile acids are the main active component of bile. It has multiple biological activities and plays an important role in fat metabolism in animals. Bile acids could promote self-metabolism of waste and protect the liver and intestine health at the same time. It's portable and easy feed, 2 grams each piece, in white powder form. We just need to mix it into pet food, and done. Thanks to its good palatability, pets will finish it by themselves. For feast usage, DAMEL could effectively help pets recover appetite from hepatic lipidosis within 3 days and remove hepatic tear stains from the root. It also helps to remove jaundice caused by liver problems. For long-term use, without any side effects, DAMEL could brighten coat and keep pets in good body shape. We could provide care for senior pets by reducing blood lipids and blood sugar. DAMEL will be there for all pets' life. Now, it's time to give my fur baby his DAMEL. It's great talking to you. See you next time. My name is Sophie. Bye!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining PetLink Asia. I'm David Zhong, President of VNU, the organizer of Pet Fair Asia. Thank you for joining us today for the new launch of our new digital platform, PetLink Asia. Our goal is to bring Asia and the Western marketplace together online for commercial, education, and matchmaking. I would like to thank our partners, WPA and PJAC Canada, as well as APA for supporting our efforts. As COVID continues to impact our life around the globe, we hope by bringing together new suppliers and their counterparts in Asia with the North American pet industry will lead to innovative ideas and new revenues for all. We hope you enjoy the next 2 days, and more importantly, can join us virtually or better yet, in person, next August in Shanghai for Pet Fair Asia, the largest trade show in the world for pet industry, where in-person trade shows are in full swing. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to day one of the American Pet Products Association's Business Boot Camp. I'm Steve King, President and CEO of APPA, and we're delighted that you've chosen to join us. Now, this boot camp has no drill sergeants or forced marches, but it does have industry experts who are ready to help you learn the basics of success in the pet industry. So let's get started, shall we? Now, the first industry expert has a resume as long as your arm, so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version in the interest of time. Dave Bolen serves globally as a retail advisor in the pet specialty business to sharpen focus on strategic growth opportunities, organization, and execution. Dave also serves on boards and with private equity groups to direct strategic thinking to enhance business opportunities. His very successful past positions as president and CEO of Pet Supplies Plus and EVP and Chief Merchandising Officer at Petco make him a valuable and insightful consultant to APA's market access and business edge programs. So welcome, Dave. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks, Steve. I'm thrilled to be here today and part of APPA's boot camp.
So let's start by looking at the size of the global pet industry. What are growth trends that you're seeing?
Good question. So, first of all, globally, Euromonitor, one of the global research firms that many people use, would estimate going into 2020 that the pet care business, which is pet food and accessories, was $140 billion. As you can see on the slide, a good portion of it in dog and cat food, and then certainly pet products bringing up $40 billion. But what's interesting is that this is just pet food and pet products. And many people think about the pet industry as including vet and other services. And so if you estimate those globally, we have an industry that's well over $200 billion on a global basis. And when you look at kind of the forecasts for growth, the Euromonitor is looking at some very strong growth numbers at 4% or better per year over the next 5 years. And the US and Asia are forecast to be the highest dollar growth regions of the world.
Well, that's pretty remarkable. Let's focus in on the US market. What's it look like for the next couple of years?
So, let's start with 2019. So, American Pet Products does a research project each year to size the industry. And at 2019, we had a very good year. The numbers indicate a 5.7% increase for that year. So we're on a very, very solid base for sure. With pet food and treats, being the outlier at 7% growth, and the supplies area of the business, the pet products, a little bit less at about half that, at about 3.2%. But very, very strong year. And going into the year, APPA did forecast a $99 billion business for the year, about 3.5% growth.
So if we look at from a broad category perspective, what's changed because of COVID, and how do you see it playing out in the coming few months?
Yeah, good question. So, APPA partners with a number of research firms, and we work with Packaged Facts. Back in March when COVID first hit, the viewpoint was pretty bleak. And at that point, it looked like we were in for, really a relatively large decline in the industry for the year. But as COVID kind of got going, we discovered that, pet adoptions are certainly up, and that the work at home phenomenon has really caused pet parents to think about buying more toys, collars, leads, accessories for their pets, as well as feeding premium food. And so Packaged Facts, working with us, did reforecast. And at this point, we're looking for sizable growth, probably 7% again in pet food and treats. Pet supplies and durables, perhaps a bit better than that. Vet, probably low single digit. And the non-medical pet care service, things like grooming, boarding, obviously they were closed for quite a long period of time. So we're seeing a decline there. But the other three categories, all in positive territory.
Very good. How about the longer term forecast? What do we see there?
So again, with Packaged Facts, we see this year as being, pretty much the same as last year. No real growth. Again, growth in some categories offset by declines. And based on kind of recent developments, that might get a little bit better. But then looking forward, there's nothing slowing the industry down. And, Packaged Facts would tell us that we're looking at a 7% plus increase in 2021 and 2022, and then slowing down just a little bit going into 2024. But just think at this point, thinking by the end of 2024, $122 billion business here in the United States. That's pretty outstanding.
It really is. Now, we've been dealing with a COVID world for the last almost year now, and sort of post lockdowns and all the activities that took place as a result of dealing with the pandemic. What do we see happen, and what changes did we see in the market as a result?
Okay, so when I think about that, I think about four broad impacts from COVID thus far. Talking to people all over the world. And let me outline them, and then I'll go into a little more detail. So pets as family, certainly driving pet population growth. A significant shift in how consumers are buying, with a shift to e-commerce and direct-to-consumer retail channels. Some product opportunities are beginning to emerge, and I'll talk more about those. And then as that shift to e-commerce really gets going, it calls into question how we should think about independents and distributors as we move forward. So if it's okay, let me go into a little more detail about these four major impacts. So, first, the thoughts about, adoptions going up, more animals in the marketplace. And there's no one database that's going to give us the answer. But HABRI, as many of you know, has done a lot of work over the years to really better demonstrate the effect of having a dog or cat at home and the improvement to human health as a result. And it's that improvement to human health with that in-house companion that I think has driven more people during COVID to own animals. And, again, there's no one database, but the estimates would be in a normal year, maybe the pet population, dogs and cats, would grow 1% to 2%. This year, it's probably at least double that, if not a little bit more. So I think we're in an environment where dogs and cats are much more important and to humans. And I think as the reality of work at home continues, this trend is likely to continue, which is certainly very good for the industry.
And Dave, I can say from experience that we got a COVID pup this summer for those very reasons. And delighted to have Chase with us in our household.
That's great. I love the term COVID pup. I think there's a lot of COVID pups and kitties running around. So kind of moving to channel shift. As many of you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been a pretty decided shift from brick and mortar to the convenience of e-commerce. And with the hit of COVID, you can see that spiked up pretty dramatically. And, the research folks now are saying that, between pet food and supplies, almost 30% of those are being bought online here in the US. And for the first time ever, it looks like the e-com channel is actually a little bigger in terms of share than the pet store channel. So huge pickup. I'm not sure if that same trend line is going to continue as we come out of COVID, but certainly today we have an industry now that is 70% brick and mortar and 30% online. And when we think about online, Chewy has been kind of the market maker in the world. They were invented in 2012, and every dollar they have made has gone back into customer acquisition and customer delight. So they really haven't made any money yet, but they've acquired a lot of customers and taken a lot of share. They released their second quarter of earnings in September, which is what you see on the screen. And if you take a look at it, they're trending right now between $6.8 and $7 billion in revenues this year, which makes them the largest pet specialty retailer in the world. 16.6 million active customers that have shopped them within the past year. And a very nice average sales per customer at $356. So they're rolling, have really changed the world. Many of us buy from Amazon, and Amazon doesn't like to be second. And so they've been pushing hard in the e-com channel as well. And estimates are that they're about 80% of the volume of Chewy. So when we think about 30% of the business being online, Chewy and Amazon have the lion's share. But Walmart's beginning to push too. So, more developments to come. But certainly COVID accelerated this. And from a consumer's perspective, the convenience of e-commerce, coupled with great prices, 1 to 2 day free delivery, great customer service, and Chewy does this incredibly well. Make this a very compelling customer value proposition.
Dave, we've watched the phenomenal growth of Chewy over the last few years. Would you say that their entry into the market and their success has helped grow the overall industry pie, or are they simply taking market share away from other channels?
So that's a great question. So there's no real hard evidence here, but I'll tell you what I think is happening. I think that they are increasing the size of the premium market. When we think about premium and super premium foods and pet products, they're generally only available in the brick and mortar pet specialty stores. As Chewy's come along, and Amazon as well, they're offering this product to everybody, every place. And so, we've seen the premium and super premium categories grow much faster than some of the economy and mid-price categories. And I believe the online access to those products is causing that to happen. And so, I think it's important that we don't forget about brick and mortar. And, again, I'm talking about 30%. And, it's very possible that as we come out of COVID, that the online growth will slow a bit. People are getting a little bit fatigued with e-commerce. And brick and mortar is in a position where they have to be special. They have to reinvent themselves. And as an example, Petco recently reinvented themselves and changed their logo to Petco, the health and wellness company. They've added 100 vet clinics to their stores in the last couple of years with plans to do a whole lot more. They made a big announcement a little over a year ago where they edited their food assortment to only carry foods that do not contain artificial ingredients. They recently relaunched their private brand, pet food, with a higher protein diet. And so they're thinking about all kinds of different ways to really be more important to the customer and to mimic human trends as the health and wellness company. Humans right now are very concerned about health and wellness, and Petco, I think, is tagging on to that. So I give them kudos for trying to do something different to be important in brick and mortar, and they're not alone. Many of the brick and mortar companies out there are doing different things to try and protect their market and further grow their market. I mentioned earlier that it wasn't just e-commerce; it was also direct to consumer that was growing rapidly. And here's a little diagram that kind of shows that's happening all around the world. Here in the U.S., I think we oftentimes hear about Farmer's Dog and Ollie. They're doing a lot of marketing on television. But globally, number of firms in Europe, in China, Australia. So this direct-to-consumer thing is growing rapidly, generally focused on fresh diets. And I'm hearing that since COVID began, this has accelerated dramatically. So one more way to market. One other thing that I think has become important as part of COVID is consumers have more time at home, more time with their dogs and cats. They're thinking harder about what they're feeding their dogs and cats. And in the human world, we're concerned now about how our food is processed, what happened to it before, it came to our house. And the same thing's happening in the pet world. And things like fresh cooked, like frozen, like freeze dried are becoming way more important. And you'll see many of the major food brands beginning to emphasize some of those processing methods to grow their business.
I'm not sure that the Barf Box brand from Thailand will make it well here in the U.S., but you never know.
For sure. Issues of translation, right?
Exactly.
And so, the other trend that's out there is I think everyone believes that as we've gone through COVID, so far we've done okay economically. But I think there's good potential that in the year to come, there could be some economic hardship. And so many retailers that I work with are beginning to think about how do they offer the customer, great product at a little better price. And, that's the role of private brand. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Petco is reinventing their Wholehearted. WAG is Amazon's private brand, and they seem to be doing more and more promotion with that brand. American Journey at Chewy, they've added a number of sub-brands that seem to be doing pretty well. And Pure Balance at Walmart on the right-hand side was relaunched earlier this year with new packaging and a much better ingredient deck. So something to watch, not only on the food side, but on the supplies, accessory side as well. I think private brand is going to become more important throughout the industry. And then, one other thing to maybe spend a second on, if it's okay, is that, the independent pet specialty stores have definitely been affected by the move to Chewy and to Amazon. And there's a lot of conversation out there about the future. And from my perspective, I think independent pet has a bright future, but I'll kind of qualify it a bit. So I talked about Chewy and how strong they are. I mean, they have one of the strongest customer value propositions in retail today. 55,000 items online, best prices, free delivery at over $49. Great customer service, over 2,000 customer service agents to work with you. So they're tough competition. For independent pet to survive, they've got to compete with that. And so the guys on this page on the left-hand side that are doing well today are thinking about an assortment that is curated, that helps the customer make that store special. Maybe a series of their own private brands, some products that are exclusive to the independent channel, but not this broad assortment that's kind of tough to work your way through. Their prices are as good as Chewy. They have incredible in-store service with long-term, dedicated, well-trained store employees. And they're now beginning to think about the convenience factor and how can they compete with Chewy by offering curbside pickup or in some cases, home delivery of their products. And so it's that kind of thinking that's going to cause independent pet specialty to reinvent themselves and to thrive in the future. You know, over the long haul, many of the logos on this page have done that. And I would actually believe that many of these people will help make the industry better as they figure out how to compete with Chewy. But that does put pressure on the distributors on the right-hand side of the page, because the reality is that a lot of the business has gone to online and they're buying direct from the suppliers. And so there's too many distribution facilities in the US right now for the amount of business available in pet specialty. And I wish there was a better answer here, but I do believe that there's gonna have to be some sort of right sizing of the distributor part of the business in the years to come.
And Dave, we know that a number of the companies, the retailers that you have listed on the left side of this page, have recently sort of banded together under the Independent Pet Partners family. How do you see that impacting both their operations and their relationship perhaps with their distributors?
It's a good question. And you know, I think that there will be additional combinations in the industry. I happen to be on the board of Feeder Supply, and we bought Chowhound, two of the banners on the page here. And we operated as one business, you know, with one back room, so to speak, but with two customer-facing brands and, you know, slightly different, you know, store formats. But that works well. It allows us to, you know, source with a much, you know, stronger sales volume. And it allows us to spread the central costs over a much greater store base. And I think we'll see other combinations like that as we move forward.
Well, that's been fascinating, Dave, and really important information for all of us to know. I want to thank Dave Bolen for sharing his insights with us today. We want to thank all of you for your attention. We hope this was a great way to kick off the Business Boot Camp, and we hope that you'll find the entire program beneficial to your business. So be well.
Thanks, Steve, and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you.
So hello to all the pet market players attending this Pet Link Asia. PJAC Canada is pleased to participate in this opportunity for pet businesses in North America. Welcome to this chat panel on the Canadian pet industry. My name is Christine Carrière, and I'm the President and CEO of the Pet Industry Joint Advisory Council, PJAC Canada. I will be the moderator for the seminar, and I am joined by three great Canadian pet industry business leaders. Mr. Mario Éthier, President of First Meat, a Canadian manufacturer of 100% natural, balanced and unprocessed quality meals for dogs and cats. Mr. Justin Larivière, Principal Sales Director at PLB International, a Canadian family-owned and operated manufacturing company that has become a reference in the field of high-end specialized food for dogs and cats. Its two distinct brands, First Choice and Pro Nature, meet specific needs and different lifestyles of your pet. And Mr. Stephen Schlichtmann, President of Burgham Cells, a leading Canadian importer, distributor, and manufacturer of pet supplies and accessories. Their products are sourced all around the world from top manufacturers, and they service pet retail outlets across Canada, including independent retailers, pet chain stores, farm feed stores, and veterinarians. Mr. Schlichtmann is also a member of the Board of Directors of PJAC Canada. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Canadian pet industries have weathered previous recessions and did reasonably well, or even thrived in past due to changing patterns of consumption and behavior. This appears to be the same in the onset of this pandemic. Mario, pre-pandemic trends such as pet owners seeking more human-grade food for their pets. As a newer manufacturer in the pet industry, how has this reflected for your business, First Meat? And what other opportunities are you seeing in the Canadian market?
Yeah, the first thing I have to say by saying that First Meat is new to the Canadian market, but the product exists since 20 years in Europe. And I was also the owner of Chef Canin, who was the human grade raw meat manufacturing company since 6 years in Canadian market. Sorry for my dog, it's always the same thing. We just sold the company just now, just to be able to focus exclusively on the First Meat market, because it is all, as I said, a new product here in North America, but well known in Europe. And it's 100% natural, unprocessed meat product. Is really important because more and more people are concerned about nutrition now. With the pandemic, they have taken the time to educate themselves about the processed food that is currently on the market. And actually, food is below their expectation. Because pets have more and more disease like cancer, diabetes, allergies, and all that stuff. Finally, they found that 100% natural, unprocessed food is the best for their pet. So the Canadian market and the world market is ready now for a high quality product, 100% natural. People are willing to pay more and more for the animals to have their live a long life and a healthy life, and all this it's began with a quality, an high quality food, and First Meat is proud to position itself at the top of very high quality products, 100% natural and mainly never processed.
Thank you, Mario, for that perspective. So Justin, last year, PLB, a Canadian family-owned business, celebrated its 50 years in the pet industry. As a long-standing pet business, what shifts have you observed in the Canadian market during the pandemic? And what are going to be the areas to consider moving forward?
Thank you, Kristen. So when we look at actually the pandemic situation and what it brings us as some information for our Canadian market, well, we've seen an increase in the adoptions of pet ownership. We see that there are more and more pet parents. People are looking forward to get pets in their families. This being said, not only we've seen an increase in the pet ownership or the pet parenting, we see that pet parents want to feed their pets in the same way that they would feed themselves, meaning that they're looking for I would say a lot more Canadian product, Canadian made products. People are looking for locally made products as well. We're lucky here in Canada, we have very great producers that brings us very good raw material. So to have this locally made to have our producers coming from Canada is a demand that we see in the market, and that we need to put in our foods. As I said earlier, they want to feed their pets in the same way they feed themselves. So we got to look on a nutrition base. The ingredients we're going to put, we got to make sure we bring in all the nutrients they're looking forward to have in their food. And we also have to continue to ease the way they're feed their pet. This is something people are looking at. The pandemic, of course, changed a bit the way consumers want to purchase their food, and we're looking at our specialized pet retailers are going forward in bringing online shops and making us giving us a platform of being and able to sell online. So these are I would say the major switch we've seen during the pandemic. On the way that we're going to look in moving forward, of course, it's not only about the product itself. It's also about it's always going to be behind the product. The product needs to be good, of course, but on the other side, the product needs to have. We're going to have to look in what are the different programs. People are not only buying a product; they're also buying, I would say, a feeling. They're buying with their hearts. So you got to look at what's going to be in the promotions, what's going to be the programs behind the product. People will be looking for sustainability, the environment, where is the ingredients coming from. So these are all sorts of things that the consumers are looking forward, and this is what we're aiming at in the next future for PLB. So all the R&D needs to be based on that, and we're looking forward to offer that to our consumers in the near future. So I would say, to answer both of your questions, this is where PLB stands.
Thank you, Justin. Wonderful. Thank you, Justin. Stephen, as one of Canada's leading importers, manufacturers and distributors of Canada's top-selling brands and pet products in a Canadian family-owned business, how are distributors and businesses adjusting with the massive shifts in e-commerce, and what impact did the supply chain disruptions have on the Canadian market?
Yeah, well, those are nicely related because e-commerce is, of course, a supply chain disruptor. But I think the big thing for those already doing business with major online platform, we've seen significant growth in sales. There's also certainly been a shift for more traditional retailers to provide e-com options, and even new stores that are opening up primarily as an e-commerce platform or business. You know, many of these businesses that are not currently online have been giving a lot of thought or preparing to get online. And of course, right now it provides the perfect opportunity to launch an e-commerce platform with the consumer acceptance of the technology rising so rapidly. You know, I think these tools are also very important to augment and maintain business, especially if more restrictions get imposed. You know, these platforms allow stores to operate and showcase their product selection, but not only to sell just the essentials, but improve add-on sales, which, you know, can certainly not exist unless you've got somebody selling that add-on. You know, they also may be able to show the availability of product, but also provide options for home delivery or curbside pickup, again, competing with some of the bigger online platforms. You know, a major component to the development of these platforms is the sharing of information and digital assets. And many of us in the supply chain have been trying to make these resources available, and we continue to try and improve these resources so that it's easier for our customers and the retailers to get up and running, so they're not starting from scratch. You know, another level of integration would be to provide some sort of link to keep these resources updated, you know, as well as maybe even showing inventory availability, whether it's in the store or can be ordered to come in from a warehouse, for example. And of course, it's confusing for a lot of these people to get started, but, you know, we've got a lot of great resources here in Canada, with the Digital Main Street being a big, you know, opportunity to learn how to get online. Otherwise it's important to find a good IT partner or technology partner to get up and running. And of course, the growth in this online business has certainly caused a strain on the supply chain. And as the pandemic has progressed, I mean, supply chain disruptions have been varied. They started off in the early stages, maybe with more consumable products as people were maybe panic buying. But as the pandemic has progressed, pet ownership has thankfully grown, and we're very fortunate in our industry to see growth like this. But that's caused some surges in demand for various categories such as grooming and training products, but also animal categories like bird, small animal, and aquatics. This increase in pet ownership has naturally increased the demand for food and products that are essential and necessary for the care and maintenance of our pets, putting further strain on the supply chain. And of course, this is a global situation. So all of the Canadian manufacturers and distributors are competing globally for product, and that has anyway. The strain on the supply chain is a global problem, and that it has increased lead times for product. Many other industries have also been impacted, but we're seeing extended lead times for the delivery of goods. Everything from the availability of raw goods, labor, and transportation contribute and continue to make it a challenge to keep adequate inventory on some lines. For example, the shortage of labor in different regions makes it difficult for some operations to produce enough product to keep up with demand. When it comes to shipping, the availability of shipping containers and trucks on some routes are extending the lead times, and that's assuming there's no further delays at ports or terminals. Another aspect has been shorter operating hours for manufacturers and retailers. That's causing some challenges as the window for pickup or delivery of goods is also narrowed. All this has led to a positive in our industry. However, with the current environment, we're very fortunate that the Canadian pet industry has grown, and there's many options available from good manufacturers and distribution. I think this sets the stage and provides a good platform for existing brands that are able to keep up with demand, but also creates opportunities for new brands and innovations to develop.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing some insight into the Canadian pet industry. While experiencing growth in the early stage of the pandemic, Canadian pet businesses will need to continue to be agile and develop offensive business strategies as the country and world moves into the next phases of economic recovery. Thank you to Mario at First Meat, Justin at PLB International, and Stephen at Burgham Cells. Thank you to APA and WPA for presenting this event and wishing registered businesses successful matchmaking opportunities in the days to come.
For over 30 years, we've created a unique charm of a marine culture by establishing production and R&D bases in Zhejiang, Jiangsu, Tianjin, Guangdong, Chongqing, etc. Our core value is being united, practical, dedicated, and innovative. Our ultimate goal is to create a 100-year-old Sansan company. We've now become the world's largest aquarium production basis, with products sold to 80 countries and regions.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Levy. I'm going to be heading up this panel, and I'm going to let everyone here introduce themselves, starting with Candace.
Hi, I'm Candace Daniolo, the founder and CEO of Pet Boss Nation. And at Pet Boss Nation, we support independent retailers and brands to see success in sales and marketing and leadership. I've been in the industry, the pet industry specifically, since 2004, having had my own retail locations and doggy daycare and grooming. And now I wanted to stay in the industry after selling my locations to support small business owners.
Thank you, Candace. Chris, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, Christopher Gwynn, co-owner of Dog Crazy. We currently have 7 locations in Virginia, just south of the nation's capital. And we've been in business for a little over 14 years.
Awesome, thank you. And Nancy, since I know you're the boss, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
My name is Nancy Gwynn. I am the other co-owner of Dog Crazy with my husband, Chris, who you just met. We have been in business for 14 years. We do have 7 locations. We're actually about to open our first doggy daycare in addition to already doing grooming and then retail as well.
Thank you, Nancy. And last but not least, Heidi, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Heidi Neal, and I am the owner of Loyal Biscuit Company. We also have 7 locations, and we're located in the state of Maine, which is pretty much the northeasternmost state in the country. We have been in business since January of 2010.
Thank you, Heidi. And for myself, so you understand where I come from, I've been in the pet space for 23 years. I started out as a distributor with 3 major locations in the United States, covering approximately 16 states. We carried about 120 brands. And then I sold off those distribution companies. I am an inventor, a manufacturer, a distributor, and today I have a company called Pet Product Innovations. I'm also on the board of a couple of different companies in the pet space, as well as an investor in and outside of the pet space. So I've got everything from manufacturing all the way, as well as retail stores. I was involved with a chain of retail stores for several years. So you've got a great panel here today, and I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to give you their opinion. And we're going to start out with a question basically to everybody. Given that pet retail was considered essential like it was almost all over the world, how well do you think, in a couple of words, retail pet is doing in the US today? Candace, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, I kind of have been saying that if you're not making money right now as a pet retailer, then you're doing something wrong because so many people got pets. Pet ownership is booming this year in the US, and that's more pet parents to serve. And so for our pet supply retailers, since they were considered essential, we had a wave of experiences. I'll let everyone else share their experience, but pet parents came out and hoarded and bought a bunch of stuff that they thought they would need that they wouldn't be able to get, which just created chaos in the whole ecosystem here. But pet retailers have stayed strong. They've had to pivot, and they're booming. Even if you're not making money right now or you're not being successful, there are always so many factors to that. But I would think that most of our pet supply retailers are doing pretty well.
Awesome, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. It's, across the industry, whether you're a retail or service, pet parents have come out in hordes because we've been on constant lockdowns and had to stay home and things like that. So they needed those companions. The independent pet stores have been reaping the rewards for that.
Yeah, they definitely have been reaping the rewards, as well as my business as well. International direct to consumer. I think we're all seeing that gain. Heidi, your opinion.
I would have to agree with everything that everyone said here. But in addition, not only the amount of new pets that people have acquired, those that are working from home and spending much more time with existing pets that they already had, are spending more time with them and wanting ways to entertain them and, really starting to pay, I think, more attention to their diet and their needs since they're with them so many more hours in a day than they were before.
definitely have to agree with you on that. And Nancy, please.
Yes, I agree with everybody else. We have never sold as much puppy food as we have in the last 7 months. We've had so many people transition to raw because they're home with their pets. So now they have the time to actually slowly transition them, to get them on a better diet, activity puzzles, things like that. People are really paying attention to their dogs and cat these days. It's actually been quite great for the pet industry.
That's great. This next question is going to be for Candace and Chris. Given the strength of the pet industry, is it possible for retailers to fail right now? Based on the Pet Value announcing the closure of 350 stores in the US, where everyone thought, and you don't have to base your answer on the Pet Value, but everyone's wondering now, hey, is pet really resilient? And it has been. I've been doing this for 23 years, and when I had distribution, we never missed a beat on having year over year, massive increases in sales. It never went down. So here's a Pet Value announcing closure. So what do you think? Do you think, Candace, do you think pet independent retailers could fail?
Well, they certainly can. I mean, because owning a small business is one of the hardest things I think anyone can ever do. I think we get into it thinking, oh, how hard could this possibly be? And then we realize, wow, there's a lot to it. So yes, revenue is up, but there's things like staff and employees and finding good employees and training them well. I'm sure Chris could talk more about even the leases that different pet businesses have and the expenses that go into running a business. We also have to think about the debt that a lot of businesses might already be carrying, and things like, I guess that they could fail if they didn't pivot to getting their online stores up quickly, if they weren't quick to offer delivery and curbside. Like, everyone, when the change happened, you needed to be able to pivot quickly, whether that was also getting comfortable doing Facebook Lives and getting on camera and putting yourself and your brand out there more. We had to find new ways to reach consumers. And if you were really stuck in your old ways, you may still be struggling right now. So it certainly is possible for a business to fail, but because there's so many moving pieces. But Chris can talk more too about other elements that may be impacted even Pet Value. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just with any business and any industry and any, economy, there's always that opportunity for failure if you're not focused on your business. When we talk about Pet Value, and I can just being in the Pet Values that I've dealt with, because we've bought a couple of the, we've bought out fixtures from a couple of the stores that were already starting to go out. They kind of throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And, if that was, their rinse and repeat kind of method, they would open up stores, and if it didn't work out within the first, term of their lease, then they would shut it down and try again. And, they were heavy on the lease, light on the payroll. So when you take COVID into effect and you lose half your workforce and things like that, you have to shut down these stores. So, and they weren't able to pivot, as quickly as we are, because we are heavier on the payroll and we have multiple employees and things like that. So, any business, whether you're a single unit or, multi-unit or, even a national chain, there's always that potential for failure if you're not able to quickly adapt to the market. And that's really, as you're looking to the future, we now know literally anything can happen because 2020 has proven that. So you always have to be able to say, okay, what's 2021 got in store for us? How do I adapt to that? And how do I, always have those contingency plans. So.
Right. And I think you guys hit it on both ends. If people weren't willing to pivot, if they were like deer in headlights, not wanting to make a change, they can fail. I think any business can fail. And the other thing too is if you just hang around thinking, this thing's over, we don't have to worry about it, you're going to fail. So since you guys didn't fail, did you have systems in place prepared you to pivot over the last 9 months? And this question's for Heidi.
Thank you. I don't think we had specific systems in place designed for what 2020 brought us. I don't think any of us were ready for what 2020 brought us, but we were very strong operationally to start with. We have a very strong culture within our employees. And I think the fact that, yes, we have multi-locations, but we're still very small, allows us to pivot very quickly and to make changes as the situation comes along. For us, we didn't have online shopping when March 2020 hit. It was something we talked about for years and just never got around to doing it and felt very overwhelmed by it all. And we ended up partnering with Éthier Pet, and within 3 days, we were fully functioning online with all of our stores for online order and pick up in store. And that was crucial for us. We opted, even though we were deemed essential, we opted to close our doors for 8 weeks to foot traffic, going solely off of curbside, phone orders, and online orders only, to reduce the amount of people in our stores while we tried to figure everything out. And I think being able to pivot and get that online shopping in place as quickly as we did and to make those changes, saved us during those 8 weeks while we got our procedures in place and our cleaning protocols and our safety protocols in place to open those doors back up to our customers. And we're now in a position that if our state does go back into lockdown, we're comfortable keeping our doors open in all of the procedures that we've created since this started. So I'm not worried should we end up back in lockdown again in our state. I think we've got a strong base in which to continue on.
I also think that those that have succeeded right now and that are making it by making those changes are actually making themselves stronger, because now they have these things implemented and they'll know in the future if something happens, they've got these other things to fall back on. So that's great. And this is, for Chris, what did you guys change, adapt to during COVID that you'll continue to use to make better? I mean, I kind of hinted on that right now, that everything should make you better, but what specifically, a couple of key items that you guys did that made you better?
Honestly, the big thing that helped us out is our online store. I mean, we already had an online store. It wasn't a huge presence that we had prior to COVID. We were slowly growing it. We had one delivery van. It was out of the back of one of our stores, and we had essentially one to two people that was dedicated to it. We had most of our products online, but when COVID hit, we were able to quickly add all of our products. We ended up leasing a warehouse, and moving forward, that's online is just it's another business segment that we will dedicate and focus. Just like every single store, it will always be a huge focus for us moving forward.
So let's talk about that for a second. Nancy, if you're talking online, are you guys worried about the Amazons, the Chewies, or are you being very specific about what you're putting online? You're saying, hey, I'm not worried about price. I just know our customers want our product. We're just going to put it up there. If we sell it, we sell it. And you don't play with the whole pricing thing?
No, we don't. We tell everybody they pay for service. And even with our online, even though it is online, they still get the same service that they get if they come into one of our stores. We focus on customer service with any customer who walks in. When they walk in the door, they meet our employees. By the time that customer leaves, I can walk up to one of our employees and I can say, what was that person's name? What kind of pets did they have? What were their pets' names? What kind of allergies did they have? It's just, we make sure that they leave our store feeling like a part of our family. And we do the same thing online. I'm actually the one who's in our warehouse every day. I know the customers that come through. I add special notes in their boxes. If it's a birthday, I personalize the birthday box. I make sure that they still get the same experience that they would get walking into our store, but with us delivering it to their house.
And on that note, that's what it takes to be successful, right? I've always told all my employees to come to work from 9 to 5 and then leave at 5 o'clock is not how you get a bonus. It's all the extra work you do. And all of us being entrepreneurs at different times in our life here, that's the way I've always looked at people being successful, is those like us that get up every day. When you figure out how am I going to pay the bills, not pay the bills, you go out there and do the work, and it's about customer service for your customers. And it's the same thing with your employees. In my opinion, you've got to take care of your good employees, period. So when we spoke yesterday, kind of touching base, both Loyal Biscuit and Dog Crazy expanded your businesses by adding stores. I believe you guys said over the last 9 months. Heidi, can you tell me a little bit on why you did that in a couple of words? And then Nancy, and then Candace, I want to ask you, because you're working with a lot of companies, how many other people are expanding or contracting? So Heidi, please.
Yes, so we added our 7th store in April of 2020. It was an acquisition of another store that was about an hour south of our main headquartered store. It was something we had gone under contract with in February. We didn't feel we could walk away. I didn't want to walk away. It was a great store and a great community. And I really felt that even though it was the worst time ever, that we could still make it work. And it actually ended up kind of playing out to our benefit as well, because we were closed to foot traffic for those 8 weeks. We were able to take that time and completely remodel the store to us during the day without having to worry about customers coming in and seeing the mess and working around it. So it actually worked out to our benefit in the end in terms of timing. And it's been a great addition to our Loyal Biscuit family.
Nancy, if you can follow up and tell me about your expansion.
Yes, so we had actually signed 2 new leases the week before COVID hit. So we didn't really have a choice but to continue going on with what we were doing. We did not expect to open another location in between that, though. About a month after COVID started, we were working out of the back of one of our stores, doing all of our shipping from there. And again, it was just such a tight space, and we were doing thousands and thousands of dollars a day in online sales. So I told my husband, look, I need a warehouse. I need somewhere that I can do this and do it right. I can't function in this small space. So we ended up renting a warehouse about 2 minutes from our house. So we moved into a 5,000 square foot warehouse in the midst of all that, hired 7 more people, more delivery drivers, more people to pack and ship orders, a warehouse manager. And that business has just taken off. So we've skyrocketed since then.
Okay, yeah, and really, so many of our Pet Boss Nation community members and clients are growing and expanding. I've heard so many stories of either opening more of their own locations, like everybody on this panel tonight, or even taking over the space next door to them and just making their current location larger. We've heard of people moving completely and renovating. Some are given an opportunity to acquire other businesses. Times like these, often when there is struggle and stress, or even people who their priorities shift. You know, COVID taught us a lot about what really was important to us. If maybe we want to be with our family, or maybe there's something else we want to be doing. And so we've seen clients who their competitor in the next town over is ready to retire, and they do have a successful business that can be acquired. So there's growth in a lot of places.
Yeah, I've seen that, not just here in the U.S., but in other countries of people that we do business with overseas. They're seeing acquisitions. They're seeing people, maybe they're owner operators and they're older, and they just didn't want to be in the store. And they're like, you know what, this is a great opportunity for us to just call it a day and move on. So, you know, the last 9 months have been hard on everyone, as Candace, you just kind of pointed out. What do you think the biggest pain point, in a couple of words, and I'd like to, you know, all of you guys to answer on this. What were the biggest pain points that Candace, either you heard about or Chris, Nancy, and Heidi, that you had to deal with, do you think? And then priorities. So bottleneck and then pain points, basically, if there were any.
From our perspective as business coaches and helping get information out, at the very beginning of all of this, for the first few months in March, April, and even in May, there was just a lot of confusion and uncertainty about what exactly were they supposed to do as small business owners, as communication to employees, and also how they could get funding and financing. And because so many of them were swamped in their businesses, working extra hours and trying to keep up with all of that demand. So there wasn't a lot of time to listen to what the authorities were, encouraging you to do. So I think that was a few months of a lot of intense work. To me, that would be one of the biggest ones.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest, things for us was that because of COVID, we, especially in our Richmond stores, we had a bunch of younger employees, associates that got scared. So we had some high turnover, and even to this day, we're still dealing with, some high turnover because of the stimulus plan that they put forth and the extra unemployment. Some were opting to stay home to get that additional unemployment versus actually coming to work and working. We were dealing with that. So I think it's finally settled down. We've got a great team now. But it's kind of also made us reevaluate our training processes and things like that. So where we were doing them in person, now we're starting to do virtual training to, kind of shorten the learning curve.
Very good. Heidi?
Over the last 9 months for me, I think my biggest pain point was the fact that we are located on the coast of Maine, which is an incredibly high tourist destination. And obviously with travel being down and restricted, for us, it was a challenge to get past losing all of those tourists and losing all those tourist dollars. And I think we did a great job at pivoting to really focus more on our local market that we kind of take for granted, especially in the summer months. And we really took the opportunity to step up our marketing game to our local customers and the people that live here year round. But for us, losing that group of customers was definitely one of the biggest pain points of COVID for us so far.
Nancy, anything that you want to add after Chris?
Yeah, well, the same thing. Hiring it has been an issue. We've had a lot of people who will come and work for one day and then they don't show up again, and then we get an unemployment claim on them. I think the other hard thing has been what to do when somebody calls and says, I've been exposed to somebody with COVID, and how we handle that situation. And I think we finally have it down. We are quick to say, you do not come in until you have a test. We want to make sure that we're protecting anybody who walks into our store, all of our employees. We don't want to risk anything happening to anybody who has been there for us through all of this, including the people who have supported us coming in and shopping with us. So I think that's been the hardest thing, is figuring out how to handle that. And we finally got that down.
Awesome. I think if nothing else, this should teach independent retailers, and I'm not talking just pet, I'm talking anywhere and everywhere, as well as even the big guys, is how important your local market is and the people that live within a short distance of your location if you have brick and mortar. Because without those people, they have other options. They can go online, which is really easy. How many of us during this whole COVID thing found online places that we can buy from? And I'm not talking pet products. I'm talking about things you just don't go to the store for anymore, that you say, hey, I don't need to do it anymore. I'm just going to order online. So it is, in my opinion, it's keeping, like you said, customer service in place, keeping them engaged all the time, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a when we can get back together, a happy hour, or what are they calling these things today, Candace? I think a yappy hour. So yeah, I think it's really important. It's great that you guys have all done that. Candace, what do you think some of the growth categories are, since you're dealing with a bunch of different retailers? What do you think the growth category is here in the US right now?
Well, I would come from the perspective of the growth categories being delivery, really getting into delivery, doing subscriptions on some level, whether that's reoccurring food orders in their stores, or even a mystery box or subscription box. There's a real opportunity there. As far as categories of food, and speaking with even Nancy and Heidi and Chris, that they care so much more about nutrition. Pet parents are really getting into what they're feeding their pets. And we've seen raw pet food growing like crazy. I've heard multiple retailers saying that they're buying more freezers, more backstock freezers. There's even some people that have like bulk buying raw subscription clubs even, and these pallets just show up of raw food and the customers pick them up. So that's where I would see growth opportunities for people. If you're not offering delivery, get your van wrapped, get out there and start delivering. Heidi, this is for you, girl. No, and then, you know, doing some sort of a subscription to get that reoccurring revenue coming in.
Chris, same question. What do you think a growth category is that you've seen?
Yeah, honestly, local delivery. I mean, you know, people have definitely shifted how they're purchasing. We have some people that started off online and they've made their way back to the store now that things have calmed down, but we now have those that will just, moving forward, they're going to be online. But, also the service industry with with the boom of pet parents, obviously you're also looking at a boom in training and things like that. And, so pet walking, pet services, there's obviously that boom. So anytime you can, incorporate it into more of a one-stop shop, then that's obviously great. But as Candace said, reoccurring revenue, that is a huge focus that I have moving forward. Just with online, we do auto ships, things like that. So as we open up our daycare, we'll tie it all together with monthly packages, across the board where we're getting discounts for, daycare, grooming, and on the retail, just to really tie them all together and keep them loyal to us.
That, I think, is a really important point. The more you can keep them in your store or engage, even if it's not on the store, as long as you can keep them engaged and they're happy and you have good customer service, I think you've got a customer for life, and they'll tell people about it, right? So I think you've hit it on the head. Heidi, same question for you. Growth categories, any particular product, or are you seeing the same thing?
I same with raw, hands down. Definitely one of our biggest growth categories. All 7 of our stores are getting 2 additional freezers this year. Several of our stores even got 3 and 4 new freezers this year in our busier stores. So, raw and the nutrition piece for us has definitely been a huge growth period. I think for us in our market, delivery is a little bit more challenging. We are we're not a very populated state, and it's very geographically spread out. So, that makes it a bit more of a challenge for us in our market. I wish it was something that was a little bit more easier for us, because I do think it would be a great service to offer. I think we just have some unique challenges based on our location for it. But the nutrition, hands down, has been a huge growth category for us.
And Nancy, you got anything to add to Chris? I'm sure you do.
Well, what everybody said, we're doing delivery. Raw has just skyrocketed for us. One thing I've noticed, though, we have added bakeries to some of our stores. People love those personalized little touches, even on dog cookies. So that's where we're going off to next. Is I want to have our own line of treats. So I want to move into distribution and have our own company when it comes to that. So, and it's just a personalized thing that nobody will be able to offer except for us, and that's just one thing I think nobody else can ever take from you.
I just want to elaborate on both something there that Nancy said and Chris from earlier. So private labeling, when we get talking back about products, private labeling is a huge opportunity. So for any manufacturers who are watching, who want to find an affordable way for some of the smaller businesses in the US and probably all over the world to customize your products, that's going to be really important. And then 2, that again, because pet ownership is up and training and behavior. I mean, if people are working at home and they're with their dogs right now so much, like once things do get back to normal, the separation anxiety and the bad behaviors that are going to be showing up in dogs is going to be huge. And so product, again, wise, any training type products to help with that transition, I think will, in the next 12 months could be really big.
Hey, I'm going to toot my own horn. So while you guys are dealing with COVID, we had the luxury of having the Zen Clipper, where people all of a sudden couldn't go to their groomers, couldn't go to their vets to get their nails done. And they're like, I need a nail clipper that I actually trust. So we invented and manufacture and sell the Zen Clipper, and it went nuts. And then the paw plunger, where everyone was worried about COVID, right? We were doing hand sanitizer and everything else. We manufacture and we own the paw plunger. and everyone was worried about, can my dog bring COVID home, right? And so everyone's cleaning their paws. So we saw a boom as well. And again, you know, it's kind of like when the stock market crashes, there are still people making money. It's amazing how that works. You know, one thing many years ago, I told one of the companies I'm an investor in and on the board of, said, we need to start doing CBD treats. And they all told me I was nuts. And I think it was 3 years ago, there may have been 7 CBD companies at a show. And then the following show, there were like 47. So final question, I guess, what do you see on the horizon for pet space, or what do you think needs to happen? And then Candace, really quick, before I let anyone jump in here, if there are any US and or Canadian companies watching this, and you're a multi-store and you're looking for some people that can actually manufacture private label treats, reach out to me. Send me an email or somehow get in touch with me, and I can hook you up with a couple of really good manufacturers, both north of the border and down here in the US. So what do you think's on the horizon? And Nancy, you're going first this time. I'm not going to let Chris take your thunder.
Okay, this is what I hope is on the horizon. I hope we have more raw exotic proteins. It's very hard to find those types of things. We have a dog ourselves that can only eat kangaroo. If I could find raw kangaroo for him, I would be in heaven, because it is almost impossible to find. So I'm really hoping that more raw companies get away from the chicken and the beef, the easier things to find, and go towards the more exotic proteins for dogs that really need it, because I would pay any price for that. So I really hope that comes around soon.
Heidi, what do you think? Do you have anything coming on the horizon, or you think?
This is a tough one. There isn't anything that I can think of that's coming on the horizon or even that I'm looking for. I guess the one thing that I see that I don't like is I feel like everybody, like a lot of manufacturers, toys, treats, whatever, are basically just copying what's already out there. I'd like to see some creativity and something truly different than what's already out there, than having 7 options of the same different thing, just with a different name slapped on them.
Great point. Candace.
For me, I don't sell products anymore. It's been about 4 years since I had my store, so I haven't been buying as much and know what's on the market. But when I look at the products that have come out that are really helping small businesses, it's the tech, all the technology that's coming out, whether that's like Éthier, like she said, or other platforms like NextPaw, or anything else that can make the tech side of their pet business be less intimidating and scary. So many of our small business owners get into it because they're passionate about what the products can do, but they need the tech support, whether it's point of sale system or mobile friendly websites or understanding how to do Facebook ads. There's so many things that they need to know. So I'd love to see more innovations around that to make it easy.
And Chris, you're last this time, buddy. So
that's okay. But I will add what Candace said. With the influx in pet parents again, and eventually they will be going back to work. Some will continue to stay home and work from home, as big corporations have actually seen an increase in productivity from people working at home versus actually having to come to an office and things of that nature. So I honestly, more puzzle toys, more, things that are actually going to keep dogs entertained while their pet parents are working. And for those that are, actually going to be going back into the office and stuff like that, then obviously you will seeing more additional influx of products that deal with anxiety, separations, things of that nature. Hopefully not CBD. That's kind of like saturated. We'll start to move on to the next great thing.
Well, all great points from everyone. I also sit on Purina's PCIP, which is their basically incubator. And this year I looked at 73 different companies that went to Purina, to be in part of their competition. And of those 73 that I looked at, I would have to say more than 65% were tech, whether it was, vet type of service, or if it was games for anxiety. And I've had a lot of those companies, I shouldn't say a lot, probably a handful of those companies come to me for investment. as well. And you were right. We're going to have to do something for our anxiety as well as the animals' anxiety, because if people go back to work, I think there's going to be anxiety for both of us. It's a good thing that several states already legalized some things recently in the U.S. because that might be a necessity. So anyway, I want to thank all of you for your time, your insight, and everything else over this last half hour or so. And thanks again. I think this was great, and I hope everyone that's watching got some information about the U.S. Pet market. And again, and I'll put this out there again, if there's anyone out there looking for private label in the U.S. or north of the border, I know several people that can do that in small and or large quantities. So that's really all we have. And thanks again for our panel. That's it. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vic Mason, President of the World Pet Association. We are the group that brings Super Zoo, scheduled in August 2021, and our new digital platform, WPA 365, bringing pet brands and pet retailers together. In association with APA, WPA, PJAC Canada, we welcome PetLink Asia, the International Pet Industry Summit. This discussion will be held live and available for viewing on the APA digital platform and be watched in Asia, North America, and the world. Today, we're going to get a distributor's perspective of the U.S. independent pet retail industry, both where we are currently and what the future holds. So first, some introductions. I'm Vic Mason, a pet industry veteran of over 40 years. I've worked in retail, wholesale, and manufacturing, pretty much all parts of the pet industry. I have served over 10 years on the WPA board before becoming president in January of this year. My co-moderator, Pete Rosano. Pete has over 25 years of retail experience, during which time he has successfully grew and transitioned to retail chains to new owners. He now has his own consulting business specializing in retail operations and transitions. For 8 years, he was a board member of the World Pet Association, most recently as second executive vice chair. And in 2020, he was hired by the WPA with a mandate to create a member services division. Next, our distributor partner introduction, Michael Baker. Pet food experts in the Baker family has established a reputation as a distribution partner for independent pet retailers. The Baker family spans 4 generations and 80 years of service to the independent pet industry, with pet food experts currently spanning 32 states with 5 distribution centers. Michael became president of Pet Food Experts in 2003 and then acquired the company from his father in 2005. Michael is co-founder of Etel Pet and serves on the board of the Pet Sustainability Coalition. Pete, I'm going to throw the questions to you.
Thanks, Vic. To begin with, we're speaking to an international audience. So, Michael, can we start by you giving your definition of what an independent pet store is and maybe what are some of the key characteristics?
Yes, when I think about independent pet stores, especially since I grew up in my family store, and I still have 5 stores of my own that I run and operate here in Rhode Island and 1 in Massachusetts. I think of stores that the majority of their revenue comes from the sale of either pets or pet food and supplies. We certainly have, as a wholesaler, we have many clients that have other parts of their store, whether it be equine, farm and feed, various other industries that they may serve in their community. A true independent pet store, in my mind, is somebody that generates the majority of their revenue from pet.
Nice. One of my characteristics that also comes to mind for me is that presence of an owner in the business somewhere. Like with your business, you're present in every aspect of your distribution and on the pet store side. And so I feel like you're speaking to the choir, or
yeah,
right?
I have always considered myself a retailer first, just because it's the deep heritage of my family. As Vic mentioned, my great-grandfather started as a retailer in the basement of his home. And as a result of his decision to switch industries, he was a soda delivery guy in the neighborhood. When he decided to follow the passion for fish keeping and domestic bird keeping, and give up his career to take a chance on the pet business, which was very different then, obviously, than it is now. I can only imagine what went through his mind. And I think the one piece that I've seen that has endured, to your point, is that passion for animals and for pets is something that we all have in common, whether you're a retailer, a distributor, or manufacturer. You're the guy that sweeps the floor, or you're the CEO and owner. We all come to the table with that love of animals. And I think that's what makes, no matter how big our industry has gotten now, 75, 80 billion, whatever the latest number is, that passion for animals is always at the core of everything we do. We're certainly all trying to make a profit as well, which some days is easier than others. But it's amazing to have seen that the roots of every business, whether you have 1 store or 100, comes with that feeling. And I would say, Pete, interestingly for me, as I've watched so many owners go on and retire and leave the business, in many cases, to non-family members, which I think about how I first met you when we were much younger guys. You don't have to necessarily be an owner, but because you have that passion for animals and doing the right thing by pet parents, it's amazing how much ownership non-family members or non-owners take with regards to the responsibility of the business. And that makes my job as a distributor, that much easier, because people want the absolute best, and it puts a lot of pressure on pet food experts as a distributor to try to scour the earth for whatever the next best thing is, the hottest trend, or more importantly, the best nutritional option for pet parents to choose for their mostly dogs and cats.
Right. And it's that passion and that level of ownership which gives them the drive and gives them, they set aside time for the customer service and for the education, which really, I think it's the education that independent pet stores are willing to share with pet parents that forms like lifelong loyalty with brands. And really the heart of the pet industry, maybe.
Yeah. And that is the ultimate test that we're facing, right? As the world becomes more digital. And this is a daily discussion, both in my retail business and at Pet Food Experts, of how can we take such a deeply personal relationship driven interaction with pet parents and make sure that relationship remains sacred. And I've been using the term nutritional prescription. At Pet Food Experts, we mostly sell food and treats. It's the vast majority of our business is on consumables, cat litter too, but mostly things dogs and cats can eat. And as a result of that, we're relying on our customers to build brands with us and I don't know if I need to register that trademark, but I feel like every time somebody comes in and says, hey, I've got this new puppy, especially this year in the United States, new puppy or new kitten, I'm coming to you because you're in my neighborhood, you are the pet store here in town. What do you think I should feed this animal? I mean, you have an opportunity to make that nutritional prescription without a medical degree. And we know, particularly if you can reference the fact that of all these brands, beautiful brands I have in my store, this is the brand that I've chosen to feed my animals. I could choose anything here in the store. I'm an expert, but I'm choosing this, and here's why I would recommend it for you and your family. That's a really powerful service that our retailers provide in the United States. They are helping people make a very, very important decision for their animals. And we've seen time and time again, no matter what comes along with regards to threats to the health of the independent trade, whether they be larger format stores, or now obviously the threat of e-commerce players in our country. Ultimately, all innovation starts with independent pet. It has been that way in my family for generations. I would say there are challenges that our customers face every day with these new other places where pet parents can choose to get their products, but that is only convenience. It doesn't take away the power of that recommendation and that personal touch that our independents provide every day.
That's a great segue into the next question, which is as a trade association which works hard to support the independent pet retailers, the WPA recently launched WPA 365. What do you see as the role of distribution in supporting the independent pet trade?
Yeah, this year with the pandemic providing such a challenge for all of us, I think more than ever, my team at Pet Food Experts and I have reflected on what is the value proposition that we provide for our customers. So we've spent a lot of time, I would say informally, and then most recently formally working with Sarah and her team from Off Leash Productions on a brand refresh that we'll be announcing early 2021. We've really been more formally reflecting on what are the things that we provide of value to our clients. And when we think about it, we do some really hard work. I've got a team of nearly 500 people at my Pet Food Experts family that every day, within usually 24 hours, we take somebody's order and all those pieces that go into the puzzle to pick that order, make sure we have the right product at the right warehouse, pick it, pack it, stack it, deliver it. There's lots of mechanical things that we do and transactional things that we do. But in the end, when we really think about what we bring to the table, it is that we refer to it as incubation platform, where we've got a specific team at Pet Food Experts that is looking for new products, new ideas that we can bring forth to our independent pet stores, so they have an extreme point of differentiation when a pet parent walks into their door. And we really have been very proud that although we serve many large vendors, some of the most popular pet foods in the United States and in the world, and obviously those are very important to us to keep the lights on. Where we really think we need to double down, and will continue to, is finding innovative, young, fresh new brands that will be the big brands in the future. And I've lived through that with my family's heritage and evolution in specifically pet food distribution. We have gone from having Science Diet as our only brand as a family in my grandfather's generation, to then Iams as the only pet food brand in our business during most of my dad's tenure. And then now I have dozens of beautiful brands. We're a much more diverse company because you have to be. Pet parents, at least in our country, expect lots of choices. I would say too many choices as a guy that has warehouses filled with dog food and cat food. But that's what consumers want. And we need to help our clients have the latest and greatest innovative brands, and also help them make the tough decision on, you can't be everything to everybody. You can't carry every brand, every SKU. And that's what our team does every day, is try to help independent pet stores make those informed decisions on the right product mix and the right brand mix.
I think you bring up a couple of good points there, with one regarding the fact that you're almost like a concierge service. You've already vetted everything, all these brands, before they even get to your door. You've weeded out the ones that don't follow the same value proposition that you're bringing to the table. And then like taking a step back from the process to just say that specifically you guys have been so careful about your level of service and your operations. And you are the reason that independent retail can have just-in-time inventory. And that is everything to the profit and loss statement of the independent retailer. Having the right inventory at the right time, not having to overload, not having to have a back room full of inventory and stocked to the rafters. You guys are consistent and accurate and get it to the store so that that whole flow can continue. But I think that's that shouldn't be understated. It's that just-in-time inventory piece that you guys are so good at too.
Yeah, our service levels, it's funny, as we've reflected on our value proposition during this specific marketing project that we've undertaken, it is easy for us to take for granted as a team that our fill rates are the highest in the industry, that our truck drivers and logistics capabilities we think are world-class, certainly best in class in our country. And not just the fact that we deliver on time every time, but that there is one of the most sacred relationships we have at Pet Food Experts is between our drivers, who are our own drivers on our own trucks, and the employee at the back of the pet store, whether it's the owner or the stock boy or girl. And you know, those relationships have withstood the test of time during the most difficult times like this year, when people had restricted hours and we had to work around their schedules, when they had reduced staff because of the pandemic, and our drivers would go the extra mile to help safely make that delivery, even in spots here on the East Coast of the United States in particular, in the early part of the pandemic, where some of the hottest spots in the country with regards to the spread of the disease were here in Connecticut and New York. And our drivers were truly heroes, making those deliveries under the most difficult circumstances. But yeah, we have a tendency to take for granted that those delivery metrics and fill rate metrics, you know, they are also what will protect our customers from losing any of their clients. And with the convenience of online shopping being what it is, if a pet store, I think about when I was a kid or a young adult, and if you didn't have a bag on the shelf that somebody needed for their dog, you just would simply say, hey, I'm sorry, it's out of stock. The truck will be here next week. You know, do you mind coming back? And people didn't think anything of it. They'd say, sure, I'll come back next week. Nowadays, if it's not on the shelf in front of you without apology, they'll go on their phone and they'll place the order. And they don't even know that that's offensive. I mean, American consumers, particularly the younger ones, they don't think anything of that. I think, you know, they all think it's all being pulled from one giant warehouse in the sky, in the cloud. So it is definitely something that we spend a tremendous amount of time and energy constantly refining our process to make sure that we have the right levels of inventory in the right places. And we do our absolute best with regards to, you mentioned loading in. We made the controversial decision a few years ago as a company to remove all commissions and bonuses from our sales structure. So our army of now 60 plus, 70 plus outside and inside salespeople, none of them have any commission or any bonus. They make a straight salary because I just wanted to remove that temptation, which I served in sales roles both inside and outside myself. So I know how tempting it is when a manufacturer or the company offered me $50 if I place this display in as many stores as possible. And if that's the wrong product for my client, but I knew I could make 50 bucks, you know, it just puts you in that compromised position where what's the most important thing to me? Putting money on and food on the table for my family, or actually serving the needs of my clients. So we made that decision. We've stuck by it. I don't know that everybody believes in it outside of my organization, because you know, certainly the tradition has been you have to pay people to perform, but I just didn't believe in it with regards to the long-term best interest of our customers. having the right product, not too much, just the right amount. We've just eliminated that potential point of risk by changing the way we think about paying for performance.
So you've basically you brought up something during that was interesting. Being able to buy on your phone while you're in a store, like the whole idea of how the industry has changed so much. Since you grew up in this industry, what are the changes that you've seen over time for the independent pet channel?
Yeah, I think the emphasis on pet food and supplies dominating the revenue of most of our clients. There are certainly still some pet stores in America that sell live animals. But the societal pressure and frankly the challenge, including e-commerce, to try to stick with, leading with live animals is nearly insurmountable, I will say. I've chosen in my 5 stores to have a very, very limited selection of live animals in only 2 of my 5 locations. And if I think back just to 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, we had a very wide selection. In fact, we were named Rumford Aquarium originally as a company. So we really always led with live fish and all the fixings that go with that. So I think that's been a big shift. And we've certainly seen the power of independent pet stores that choose to offer their pet parents multiple ways to shop with them. Convenience, no matter how sacred that relationship is that I mentioned earlier between the pet store and their pet parents that shop there, convenience definitely is an attribute that has to be taken seriously. And which is why I was inspired to partner with Bette Giannini at Éthier Pet. And we've tried to come up with something born out of the back of her and her family's own 12 pet stores in LA. She had proven in her marketplace several years ago that with these little tiny stores that they chose to open, that their clients were willing to order online and pick up in store. Nearly 70% of the orders that were placed online with their chain were order online, pick up in store. So we didn't necessarily feel like when we talked about founding Éthier Pet, we didn't necessarily feel like we had to directly compete against Amazon and other e-commerce players. We just needed to offer pet parents that wanted to be loyal to us the easiest possible ways to shop with us and remain loyal and local, right? Shop local in their neighborhood. So we've been blessed now. We have over 1,300 doors, both in the United States and Canada, that are powered by Éthier Pet. When you go to that pet store's website, you can click Shop Now, and the pet store chooses from a very wide selection, over 30,000 items in our catalog. The pet store chooses how few or how many items they want to offer for sale online. And we do have the ability to offer, first and foremost, order online, pick up in store. And also I would describe it as micro home delivery. Whereas if you want to have your staff on their way home, bring that bag to a neighbor's house, within a few streets or a few blocks of your store, we have the ability to power the pet store to do that as well. But we've seen stores, certainly since the pandemic, stores that have a digital offering for their pet parents are performing at nearly 25% higher revenue than stores that don't have an online presence. It's just common sense. Consumers expect multiple choices, and pet stores should not think that they are immune to that need to provide, the omni-channel experience is the fancy term for it, but it's really just giving people multiple choices.
You bring up a good point. The digital aspect, the catering to the consumer's preference rather than pushing back against it. And that is one of the key elements to what we've seen recently with COVID-19 is coming up with and offering those alternatives. And so you just went over one, the Éthier Pet alternative or curbside pickup as being really, I don't know, I think we've fast forwarded, 5 years in the development just in the last 5 months. What else have you seen from COVID has been a challenge for you?
Yeah, certainly at the beginning, before pet stores in the United States were deemed essential businesses, meaning they didn't have to close, no matter what other lockdowns were going on in your city or state. Before that was widely known, we saw an incredible and an unprecedented run on inventory in the stores that we serve. At Pet Food Experts, the middle of March 2020, we had 2 weeks that were over double our normal volume, which we knew if we were that busy, that meant our customers were that busy. And we certainly easily predicted that that meant shelves were going to be wiped out. So we were blessed to call in many favors to our manufacturers that we serve. And we ordered an emergency order of over 100 tractor trailers in a 24-hour stretch in the middle of those 2 weeks. And in most cases, I would say 90+% of the cases, the manufacturers that we called and placed those 100 tractor trailer orders to found a way to make that product more quickly. They sent it in some cases half the time that it normally takes to turn our orders. They were able to get it to each of our warehouses, and we were able to continue to replenish the shelves. So as a result of that run up in March, we certainly saw a drop off in sales for families that had bought 2 or 3 or 4 bags thinking the pet stores were going to be closed. There were many full pantries here in the States. And as a result, we did have a very soft April and May, which meant our customers did as well. And it was survival mode, I think, for us. I certainly can speak for us. And we knew at the retail level, the restricted hours made it difficult to stay in business. Your customers and your employees' fear of getting sick, being on the front lines like that. Most of the attention in our country was rightfully so focused on medical staff and first responders. And I would say a lot of attention was paid to the human food supply chain, namely grocery stores. But make no mistake, the pet stores were open during those same difficult times. We just don't make the news because we're pet stores. But we really felt at Pet Food Experts an incredible responsibility to make sure that when business started to pick back up again, that we had everything they could possibly need in their stores to be able to get back on their feet and live to fight another day. And if I look at my numbers now, which is a direct reflection of the health of the independent pet stores we serve, over 4,400 locations that we deliver to across the country, business is fantastic. Our pet parents have come back to our channel. They've chosen to remain loyal to us, I would say, more than ever. We know that millions of dogs and cats were adopted in our country since the spring. So there's that many more mouths and stomachs to fill. So it's an unintended benefit of this incredible health challenge that we all face that I think it's brought new life to independent pet stores that want to fight. It is not an easy business. It wasn't when I was a boy, and it isn't going to be any easier going forward. But we certainly see that the strongest in our space have always adapted and survived. And I don't see why a pandemic or e-commerce or any other future threat is going to change that. If customers really want to fight, there are pet parents that are going to want to support independent local pet stores.
Which is a great segue into the final question, which is taking a good look at what the role of independent pet will be going forward into the future.
Yeah, I think it's a combination, from where I sit in the middle of the supply chain at Pet Food Experts, our team and I serve over 124 vendors. And many of those vendors have multiple brands, but I'll just say 124 vendors. And then, as I mentioned, 4,400 separate locations that we deliver to. And the role of this ecosystem, the combination of these 3 pieces of the supply chain, really is to make sure that we're protecting each other. And we recognize that vendors, regardless of their ownership structure, are trying to grow their business. And the temptation when your brand, if we do a great job as pet stores and a distributor with this incubation process of finding innovation, building up brands from zero to the next level, whatever that is. Those manufacturers, the better job we do building those brands, the more tempting it is for manufacturers to take their brand into other channels and expand their offering. So it's a natural evolution of a brand. And it's very difficult for me to sit here or for pet stores, although they will, to ask a vendor to never grow or to decide they hit a certain plateau and then they'll just accept that that's the best they can be. So this ever evolving ecosystem of new brands coming in, building up, and then watching these vendors from my seat make these difficult decisions to offer their products or certain of their products, you know, to either big box stores or other channels, including e-commerce. You know, that has been the challenge that has existed for you know, generations in my family's case. I think what was different decades ago, or even 10 or 15 years ago, is when a brand was popular in our space, it felt like you had 5 or 10 or even 15 years for that brand to stay faithful, if you will, to our space. And I would say because of, for several reasons, including, you know, the onset of the digital age, that life cycle of a brand is much more compressed. If a brand is hot and you get featured on a YouTube spot or a TikTok video, you can be, you know, 5 years, or a pandemic happens, you know, this rate of change can be accelerated in a way that I don't know that we ever imagined growing up in the business. And I think that's both our greatest strength as an independent pet trade, as well as potential threat. And it's just trying to, as a pet store, trying to make those decisions on which vendors are going to be the best fit for you and your staff and your store, and also the ones that have the ability to make promises that you can trust, that they're going to wait as long as they can. And some of our vendors have said, this particular segment of our portfolio, this brand, will always be independent only and not be on e-commerce or not be in some of the big box chains. So that's the decision we're making every day as we pick and choose. We say no to far more vendors that are asking to come into our portfolio than we say yes to. And a lot of those difficult decisions we make are based on the vendor's plan on when you get to 1 million or 5 million or 10 million, what are you going to do? And we challenge them up front in the relationship, not demanding anything. If their decision is already laid out to be aspiring to be in big box and on Chewy and Amazon, that's fine. We just want to know that up front, and then we can decide to put forth the appropriate amount of effort with those brands, and also make sure we can inform our pet store clients, you know, what the intentions are of these brands. But that will, I think it has been, you know, probably the greatest challenge of, if you have limited space, most of our clients' stores are not very big. You have to make tough decisions, and this rate of change with brands evolution or brands growth, I think it does make the decisions that much more vital, because if you bet wrong, it can be really difficult to have to switch, you know, your faithful clients to a different pet food brand. I mentioned earlier in the conversation about that sacred nutritional recommendation we make, or prescription almost. If you go ahead and make that recommendation with all your heart, and then a month later, because a vendor chooses to go into other channels or expand their offering elsewhere, and all of a sudden every customer that comes in, you say, you know, that food I put you on, I think we got to switch that food. And how can you blame a pet parent for saying, hey, you just told me a month or a year ago this was the best. My dog's doing great, my cat's doing great. It just creates a little bit of a break in that trust, because consumers don't really, I don't think they truly understand. It's not their job to understand channel dynamics. But you can rest assured, it is, as a distributor and as a retailer, it is our responsibility to understand that dynamic. It's part of what makes us special. And it's also, you know, something that we really have to watch out for to make sure we can sustain ourselves for hopefully another generation to come, in my case.
Well, Michael, that is some great advice for brands, and some great insight in how the independent retail pet segment works in the U.S. So we're running out of time. I wanted to thank both you guys for doing this today. Hopefully our world audience has learned a little bit about how the independent trade in the U.S. works. And I'm going to close today actually from a quote that I found by Michael Baker. And so I'm going to go ahead and read that, and then we'll sign off. So this is a quote from Michael Baker. I think we can all agree that 2020 has tested and challenged all of us in many ways, both personally and professionally. My biggest takeaway for 2020 so far is that the pet industry is essential, inclusive, and resilient. This crisis, although devastating to families and communities across the globe, is also springing forth new levels of innovation, collaboration, and compassion for those that have endured it. All that we have learned and all that has made us stronger as a result, we will shape the future of our world. Well, that's a very positive note to end on. I want to thank you guys again. Take care and God bless.